Hello and welcome! In today's video, we're going to be covering the basics of how to set up a course in Canvas. I think this video is going to be especially helpful for those of you who are newer to Canvas or especially newer to teaching. I'm Dr. Allison Fowler. I am a professor in psychology. I have my PhD in educational psychology and I absolutely love course design. So I hope you find this video helpful. Please subscribe if you'd like more content like this and we'll go ahead and get into it. So my first tip is you really want to ensure that your syllabus and your Canvas shell are tightly aligned. Whatever you have in your syllabus, you don't want that to in any way contradict what you have in your Canvas shell or vice versa. So I recommend fully creating your syllabus. I have videos that can help with that if you need. And then once you've got all of that information sorted out, then work on putting that information into Canvas. Sometimes when you get into Canvas, you'll already have a page designated as the home page. Even if you don't though, you can create a new page and then you can designate that as your home page. What I recommend is having a place, your home page, where students can click on all of the relevant links that they're going to need for your course, particularly the different weeks or modules that you're going to have in your course. So you can also have a course welcome video on the home page. I highly recommend this if you're teaching online class, but I think it's a great thing to have even if you're teaching in person as a place for students to return to get information about the overview of your course, key assignments, and things like that. Really, any information that you want your students to be able to access easily and frequently, it's a good idea to consider linking that in your course homepage. Next, you could go ahead and start creating the assignments for your course. If you have assignments that students will need to submit something online, you can mark it as such. If you have assignments that you'd rather your students to submit to you a hard copy in person, you can mark it as such. You can even allow students to submit links. In the assignments tab, you can also select how you plan to grade an assignment. So you can select if you'd like to grade it by points, percentages, or just a complete, incomplete, or you can even have assignments that you can mark as not going towards the student's final grade. So there really are a lot of options here. You can select how many points the assignment is going to be worth. You can add the assignment to a given module so that students can access it through that module. And again, you can do all of this within the assignments tab. And the last thing that I want to point out to you here is that you can also create a rubric that you can attach to a given assignment. This allows you, whenever you go to grade, to be able to grade the rubric right alongside each assignment, which can be really handy, especially if you are a person who likes grading with rubrics. Now, back to the options for adding in a quiz. Canvas will typically give you two different quiz formats to choose from, an old option and a new option. The primary difference is that the new option is going to have a lot more flexibility in the types of questions that you can ask. So instead of just multiple choice and essay question, it'll have more matching options and other kind of fun, if you can make a fun quiz, ways to ask your students questions. So I typically do select new quizzes to be able to add in those options, but if you're just doing a typical multiple choice or short answer quiz, you can really choose either option. If you are wanting to use Lockdown Browser, you can select that option as well. This is a tool that adds in some additional parameters while students are taking the quizzes to try and avoid cheating and plagiarism and things like that. So if you're interested in that, you can add that on here as well. You can also make sure if you're teaching an online class or a class where students are going to be taking the quizzes through Canvas, if you have students who need accommodations specifically with regard to time, you can add in additional time options for students here. And the really cool thing about it is you only have to do this one time and it'll automatically apply to all of the quizzes for your students for that class, or for the student that you select for that class. So once you've created all of your assignments and you've labeled all of your modules, what I recommend is going in and under each module, you're going to create a new page. You'll click create and then you'll add a new page. And I like to label this something like week 1 instructions or week 1 guide. And in this page is where I put all of the relevant links and materials and instructions that the students are going to need for each week. And I tell them all the information is going to be there in that week 1, week 2, week 3 guide. So here's how I recommend setting that up. First, you're going to begin with a brief welcome and brief explanation of what the students are going to be doing that week. So for example, I might say, welcome to week 3 of our time together. This week, we're going to be covering XYZ concept. We're going to be digging into this. We might have this guest speaker. I just give a brief overview. And then underneath that, I provide all of the links to the assignments that they're going to need for that week. I usually also have a reminder about when those assignments are due. I'll also include reminders for students about things that they need to keep in mind, things that are going to be upcoming. So I might say, remember your rough drafts are going to be due by the end of next week, so it's a good idea to start working on those now, for example. Now, when it's time for you to go in and grade assignments, you can go to assignments. When you click on it, there'll be an option called Speed Grader. In my experience, it's not necessarily speedy, but it is a place where you can access all of the student submissions so that you can grade them. If you have decided to attach a rubric, then that'll be available there as well. If you're just planning on going by points or comments or however you're applying your feedback, you can do all of this there. So you'll have your student submission come up, and there are a couple of different ways that you can leave feedback. As I mentioned, you can complete the rubric, but you can also click a little button and you can add in comments on the student work. I really like this option because it allows me to be very specific with the feedback that I'm giving and what I'm referring to. Or you can, in a comment box, you can leave overall or overarching comments to your students. If you want to use a rubric, but you don't want to use the rubric that's set up in Canvas, maybe you have a separate rubric that you're giving students in class, for example, you can refer to that rubric in the overall comments if you'd like to. You can also give video feedback, which I think is an amazing tool, especially for online students. So you can just select the little video camera and you can take a video of yourself giving feedback, or if you don't want to record directly in Canvas, you can record on Zoom or some other recording device and then upload that video if you'd like. If you ever have some information that you'd like to give to students, you can create an announcement and that will go out to the students. You will want to let them know to make sure that they need to turn on the settings so that they receive notification about those announcements. But once they've done that, they should be able to receive those. And the same goes for the notifications of your feedback on their grades. Sometimes they'll get a notification that they've received a grade, and sometimes they need to tweak things a little bit to make sure that they're getting the notifications for those. Those are the basics for creating a course in Canvas. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you have other questions, please feel free to let me know. And again, if you want other tips about how to create a syllabus or other teaching and pedagogy related videos, I have those included on my channel. Thanks again. Bye.